There once was a man named Heinz. Heinz was not a rich man, nor was he a poor man, but he was a nice man that loved his wife dearly. One day his wife came down with a rare form of cancer. However, there is a drug that might help treat it, but the cost is very expensive, and there are other people who are trying to purchase the drug for themselves, and there isn't enough to go around. Heinz sells his possessions, borrows from family and friends, but is only able to come up with about half of the money. In desperation, he breaks into the lab and steals the drug. What should Heinz have done? Should he stole it or not steal it? Why or why not? Should he be punished? Why or why not? If you could, please comment in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. Should he have stolen it? Should he have not stolen it? Tell me why or why not, and whether you think he should be punished or not. Because one, this is actually very much part of Kolberg's experiment when he posted this question to a bunch of young kids in the 1970s, I believe it was, and because it's not really about should he have done it, should he not have done it. It's really about the reasoning behind it. Why should he have done it? Why should he have not done it? And the reason that he should or should not be punished. Because this is actually the important thing about this. What is your reasoning behind it? So please take a moment, comment in the comment section, and while you're at it, give me a like too. Help me out. Because nothing else, this will all help the algorithm throw me a bone a little bit. Now, would your opinion change if Heinz was an old man? What if his wife was mean? Like she beat him with a stick and kicked him with a lead boot, that kind of stuff. Ran over bums on the side of the road. I'm kidding. But what if in general though? What if she was mean? And also, would it also change your opinion if he also had a child who was sick as well? Would any of these things change your opinion about stealing the drug or not stealing the drug or being punished or not being punished? Because these are all little different factors that can have an impact on whether something is the right choice to make or not. So this is actually kind of where Kolberg kind of comes in and steps in. Because remember, and kind of put Kolberg in the larger context, this is after the Stanley Milgram experiment. And just as a brief recap, the Milgram experiment was when Stanley Milgram um, wanted to test whether people would commit atrocious acts just because someone in authority was telling them. And then, not long after that, you have the Stanfield prison experiment. And when some people took some contestants, they were divided up between guards and prisoners. And what they have found as a result of that was the guards, given absolute power, would abuse that power. And this kind of think about this within that context. Because again, it's easy to say you have a moral thing. This is right, this is wrong. But when things start getting interesting in life, when you have to start making choices, that is when this stuff becomes a bit more relevant. So, a real question, and this is something I actually pose to my psych students, and even when I taught government, I kind of put this out there. Which one is better? Which side do you agree with? Do you agree with the guy on the left that it is better that 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer? Or do you agree with the person on the left who says it is better that 10 innocent people suffer than let one guilty person escape? The person on the left is William Blackstone. The person on the right is Otto von Bismarck. Person on the left, in essence, helps really lay out the idea of innocent until proven guilty, which is a cornerstone of the American justice system. The guy on the right, well, he created modern day Germany and was chancellor under the Kaisers. Just something to kind of think about. But again, why does all of this matter? Well, because we're always bombarded by moral questions. Again, just a couple years ago, we had the coof jabs and the lockdowns and everything because of COVID-19. And those were couched in moral questions. It is moral to get your shot. It is moral to not go to work. It is immoral to get your job, to get your shot or go to work. Or it was moral or immoral to force people to get the shot. Why do people do it? Why did people get the shot? Why did people not get the shot? These are real questions. And again, now that it's a little bit further down the road, it's kind of easy to kind of disconnect yourself from kind of the emotions of it all and really begin to sit and really think about it. But even the ideas of a fair trial versus the court of public opinion. Is everyone entitled to a fair trial? Is everybody entitled to be innocent until they are proven guilty? Even if you have video evidence of them, blowing up a bus full of nuns or something, and with a sign that says "I hate nuns," are they still entitled to a free and fair trial? What about the idea of free speech? What does free speech mean? Does it mean that everybody can say whatever they want to say, or does it mean that there are certain limits on it? If there are limits on it, is free speech actually free? Again, these are questions. And then the idea of the war in the Ukraine, something that's going on right now. The U.S. should get involved. The U.S. should not get involved in it. People say things on both sides. But why? What is the rationale for it? Where are they coming to those conclusions on how to approach that situation? Especially, again, with the moral component that is added to it. So Kolberg found 6 stages of development, and these 6 stages are grouped into three kind of levels. And in general, you got your pre-conventional level. This is where, in general, you're trying to avoid punishment and is very, very egocentric. Middle is conventional, where you're kind of balancing where you are with society. This is the conventional. And then the third is what we call post-conventional. And this is where you're looking at things more kind of universal. Like these are universal ideas, universal principles that people are trying to live by. So the idea of the pre-conventional stage is, again, very egocentric. And what this means is you're lacking other people's perspectives. In general, you're self-centered. This is common in children. Like when little Timmy is caught with cookie crumbs on his face, mommy catches him, mommy asks, "Did you get him the cookies even though you're not supposed to?" And then little Timmy says no. Yes, little Timmy is lying. But why is little Timmy lying? Because he doesn't want to get beat. There you go. And that's kind of that idea, though. Because at stage one, the most basic level, is all about obedience and punishment. And the question is, what can I do to avoid punishment? So again, this is kind of an example of this. It is okay as long as I don't get caught. It's okay because I don't want to get in trouble. It's not okay because I don't want to get in trouble. But that is really the basic idea. I'm trying to avoid getting in trouble. Very, very self-centered. Stage two, which is kind of just moving above this a little bit, but we're still staying in that pre-conventional stage, is the fancy word is instrumental relativist. More layman's way of saying this, self-interest. What's in it for me? I'm paying for something, whatever. Or I will help you out but you'll owe me. So again, I do this, I expect you to do something for me. But again, the idea between both of them is still the same. What is good for me? All right. So stage one, you're just trying to avoid getting beat. Stage two, you are trying to get maybe a little bit manipulative, a little bit of give and take, a little bit more focused on, okay, I'll do this. But again, you owe me. Then your conventional stage. This is where around the time of adolescence and adulthood. Um, but this is where, again, overall, now you're moving into the realm of society. What are society's norms, conventions, customs, those kinds of things? So this is where the person accepts those norms. They don't really question the rules. They just kind of just go along with them. And they will follow the rules even if there are no consequences for breaking them. So stage three is really all just about conformity. What are the social norms? Am I a good boy or a good girl based off of what society tells me? Am I conforming? The bystander effect will often kick in around here. So, like for example, you see you see two people getting into a fight, and you're standing there, you're watching it, you look around at everybody else. What are they doing? Are they getting involved, or are they not getting involved? Or are they whipping out their cell phones and recording everything, so you whip out your cell phone and record everything? Or are people rushing into the fight and trying to break it up, so you rush into the fight and you kind of break it up? So in essence, what's everybody else doing, and how are you kind of conforming to that? And then stage four is about law and order. What are the rules? You follow the rules. You're going to do what the rules say. Not necessarily going to follow what everybody else is doing. Even if everybody else, like, you know what the rules are, people are not following the rules, but you yourself are going to still follow the rules. And again, the idea is, may say something like, without rules, there is chaos. Without rules, things fall apart. So I am going to follow the rules. And then when they see someone not follow the rules, they will probably get annoyed with it. They will get annoyed and probably be upset about it, because they're like, well, I'm following the rules. Why aren't they following the rules? And yeah, that's pretty much that in a nutshell. And then you have the post-conventional. And this is when the individual, in general, what happens is they view themselves in society, but they are still separate from society. So again, kind of where you get the phrase, what is popular may not always be right. And they will point out to things like, Uncle Adolf in Germany and around that time, and the people that did not want to participate with the Nazi Party. In essence, they were going against the cultural norms. They were going against the rules. They were going against everything that society was telling them to, because, in a sense, they were answering to a higher morality. So this is kind of where it is important, because they will disobey rules that are inconsistent with their values. So again, bit of an extreme example, but again, it really points it out. Uncle Adolf says round up some Jews. People hid Jews or helped them escape or did all those other things. They were disobeying the rules because their values were saying it's not good to kill Jews. That's pretty straightforward. And so again, they will do what they feel is right, regardless of the consequences. So, like for example, like the story of Anne Frank, the people who hid Anne Frank, yeah, they did not have fun when the Nazis found them. Or the who is it? During the German invasion of Poland, there was a zoo. They made a movie about this called The Zookeeper's Wife. Fairly somewhat historically accurate. But you had a zookeeper, you had his wife. They were smuggling Polish Jews using their farm. They were smuggling them out of Poland through their farm to, save them from the Germans. But again, that was illegal. It violated it. And if they were caught, yeah, they probably would have been shot. But again, that's kind of, regardless of the consequences, they're doing what they feel is right. Now, sometimes this can be confused with pre-operational, because again, sometimes it's a matter of, just outwardly appearance. Because again, you'll look at someone, they're going to be marching to the beat of their own drum. People are going to think, well, they're just doing it just because whatever. But again, if you sit down and talk to them and listen to their rationale, that's really the important thing. You have to have them explain it, really listen to what they're saying. and then you can see some of this in there. Many do not reach this far. That's really kind of the idea, because what happens is, in general, people get so focused on following rules, doing what they think is right according to the rules and everything. Because again, with these two stages come a little bit of risk to it. Because again, what happens if you're going against society? What happens if you do what society says no? Even if society is pathological, well, you're going to be punished, and that sucks. But again, stage 5 is about the idea of the social contract, intent of the law versus the letter of the law. And again, this is where people talk about the spirit of the law. So, like, for example, the idea of freedom of speech, okay, or freedom of the press. Do those just pertain to the press? What is the press? Back when the First Amendment was written, it was about the printing press, literally being able to print pamphlets and say, hey, I think XYZ. Or it could be me standing on the side of the road saying, hey, I think XYZ. But we're here online, and the same principles that are guiding the idea of freedom of the speech, freedom of press, also involves me making a video about morality that I'm going to post online to a few different platforms. There you go. That's that idea of the social contract and how we sort of live by it. And then the final stage is a universal ethic principle. And this is principled consciousness. This is where you will see things like people talk about the absolute freedom of speech, where people should be able to say whatever they want to say. However, I have the right to say whatever I have to say about what other people say. So, for example, someone who believes in this would say, yes, let the Nazis have their YouTube channel where they talk about the joys and wonders of being a Nazi. And then I have the right to make my own channel talking about how dumb they are. There you go. Or even things like the non-aggression principle found in libertarian, little l, ideology, which says, I will never initiate hostility against anybody, but I will defend myself if I need to. And that's kind of that kind of idea that shows up. But again, the idea is these are universal principles. And yes, around this point, this is where you begin to see like the introduction of faith into the conversation, people's religious beliefs and convictions and all that other good stuff. And that's actually where Kolberg himself actually postulated a possible second stage, or I'm sorry, a seventh stage. And this is what he called transcendental morality, or morality of cosmic orientation. And this is where he tried to link religion with moral reasoning. Now, aside from that, he really didn't go very far with this. Kolberg himself only speculated very, very briefly about this stage. And but the idea really in general is if so few people make it to stages 5 and 6, how many few people will make it even to this stage 7? And probably this would be reserved for like people who are saints. About the best way I can describe it. Now, circling back to Heinz. Now, you could justify him stealing the drug or not stealing the drug at each stage. Now, this I just honestly, I'll be honest, I stole this from Wikipedia, but because it does do a fairly decent job of kind of just laying it all out in something that's easy. So if you want to, pause this, read it over, but just for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to blitz through this really quick. So, pre-operational, the obedience. Now, Heinz should steal the drug because it's not worth a lot. And he even offered to pay for it. There you go. And he's not stealing anything else. He's just stealing the drug. So he should steal the drug because of that. He should not steal the drug because there are consequences. He could be put in jail. And I don't want that. Self-interest. He'll be happier if he saves his wife, even if he serves a prison sentence. So, yeah, self-interest. I'm going to feel good about myself if I do this because I'm going to save my wife. I'm going to feel good. She'll probably love me more maybe. And, you know, if you're Heinz is what you're thinking. So, yes, steal the drug. Or he shouldn't steal the drug because prison is an awful place. Yeah, and he don't want to go to jail. And if he's not going to be able to see his wife anyway because he'll be in jail. And in jail, there's laughing, there's crying, there's laugh that sounds like a cry, and a cry that sounds like a laugh. And yeah, jail's a scary place. I know this because I was in jail for a while. As a teacher, I taught in jail. It was my job, juvenile facility. It was scary. Yes, not good. Conventional, with the idea of conformity. Well, his wife expects him. His wife expects him to do things to save her life. So, yes, he will steal a drug because that'll make him a good husband, and he's conforming to the expectations of his wife. Okay. He shouldn't steal the drug because stealing is bad, and he is not a criminal. So if he wants to conform to not being a criminal, which is bad in the eyes of society, he is not going to steal the drug. Law and order. His life will benefit, but he also should take the prescribed punishment for the crime. So, yes, he should steal the drug because his wife will benefit from it. But he should also be willing to take the punishment his own. And there you go. But he should not steal the drug because the law prohibits stealing. Post-convention, the social contract. Everyone has a right to choose life, regardless of the law. So yes, step out, save the wife, take the punishment. Not because his wife will benefit, per se, but because a life will benefit. He should not steal the drug because the scientist has a right to be paid for his labor. And that does not mean that you just steal it. And then for post-conventional, the universal human ethics, saving a human life is more fundamental than the property rights of another person. So saving the rights of one person is more valuable than the property rights of another. Like, you could make that argument. And some people have made this argument. But he should not steal the drug because others may need that medicine more. Just like with the example. Yes, he is stealing the drug, but he's stealing it from someone else who could maybe pay for the drug. And both their lives, his wife's and someone else's, an absolute stranger that he has never met, their life is just as valuable as his wife's. So, again, this is not necessarily a cut and dry thing. But the important thing is, if, whatever you're listening to, what is the thought process behind yes or no? So some criticisms because, yeah, people have criticized Kolberg because, again, nothing's above criticism, and this is how you get the ball rolling and the conversation going. But in general, moral reasoning does not equal moral behavior. Some people have made this argument. What if we don't know what to do? What if we don't know what the right thing is? There you go. Some people have also criticized him as that it overemphasizes justice. Compassion and other intrapersonal feelings may play a role in moral decisions as well. So, like again, compassion. They would say justice should not necessarily be cut and dry. But compassion, what is going on? What is going on in that person's life? Where are they coming from? There you go. Cultural bias. Some people have accused Kolberg of being very Western in approach, focusing more on kind of what do you think as an individual. However, Eastern cultures, in general, tend to stress the community over the individual. You do what is good for the community, not necessarily what is good for you. The idea of the, for lack of a better term, triumphatism of the individual, that is a Western idea. And then age bias. When Kolberg initially did his research, he studied children. He gave this scenario to children, and a lot of people have said that the idea is too abstract for children. Because, yeah, if you're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, yeah, you've probably never been married, hopefully. And you never had a spouse, so you don't know what that means yet. So because of that, you're pretty much putting ideas on children that they're not really necessarily equipped to handle with. However, some people have gone and they've redone this experiment with adults, and they have done this experiment with or study with other people, and then they've also kind of where the last thing comes in with the gender bias that some people have argued for. In fact, Kolberg's own assistant kind of criticized him for this. Carol Gilligan's, I believe it was. Um, but all subjects in his sample were male. And in general, and again speaking generalities, males tend to have a more absolute view of morality. And Kolberg also had the belief that women remained, in general, at the third level, the conformity phase, because they value more and value. Sorry, because they place more value on social relationships and the welfare of others, whereas males not so much. Just difference of the sexes. And now some people have gone through and they've redone the experiment with again other genders, other ages, other cultures, that kind of stuff, and to kind of flesh this out a little bit more. And in general, these things tend to hold. Because again, what happens for a lot of people is they get very, very stuck in kind of the specifics and not really looking at the general themes, if that makes sense. But again, some of the main takeaways of this is this did help get the conversation going as far as morality goes. Now, some people have kind of touched on morality before, kind of here and there and around. But what happened though with Kolberg's study was that it helped really start taking things that people have already done and kind of putting it in a different context and maybe a more sophisticated context. Because, like, for example, the Milgram experiment, where you take people and, yeah, you had people that literally thought they were electrocuting people to death because they were getting answers wrong on a test. I suggest you look into that. That's actually a pretty interesting study if you've never heard of it before. The Stanford prison experiments, where they took college students, broke them up, guards, prisoners, and the guards, in essence, lost control, went hog wild, and everything else. And then you have the Ash conformity experiment, where are people going to conform to what the group says, even if the group is wrong? And again, for that study, if you never heard about it, really just involved which line is longer or which line is the same length. And people that, and they found if you're in a room and everybody is saying B, even if the evidence of your own eye says A, you're going to say B, or a lot of people will say B. But again, is that moral? Is that moral to just go along with a group even if it's not? And again, these are real questions. And this is really where Kolberg really starts to, again, get that conversation going as far as, okay, what is morality? Because we're surrounded by moral questions all the time. Does not matter. And this kind of helps figure out a little bit about morality and what is morality and what is the rationale and the reasoning behind morality. Whether it be, do I cheat on a test because I don't want to fail and I want to graduate and all this other stuff, all the way to, is it okay to shoot someone if they're breaking into my house and they're going to kill me and my family? And should I be, and all the consequences that fall from that? Because again, and again, I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. It is okay to kill, it is not okay to kill. But these are things for you to think about. And as you talk to people who are different and have different perspectives and everything else, one basic rule that I learned in when I was taking like my psychology classes in college, specifically my counseling classes, was if you want to understand what someone is saying, shut up. Just shut up and listen. And if you do say something, what you're doing is you're saying something to get them to talk more so you can better understand what is going on in their head. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up everything. But again, if you want to find where I am and all this other stuff, because I need to do a better job about advertising. Yes, I am on YouTube. I am on Odyssey. I am on Rumble, and I am on Twitter. And links to all of these places are in the description. So if you're following me on Twitter, if you're following me on YouTube, sorry, if you're following me on YouTube, yeah, look me up on Odyssey, Rumble, and Twitter, and all the other places. Mainly right now, because I know I haven't made anything in a while, and I got another video that'll be coming later that kind of explains why I've been out. Going back to economics for a little bit about that one, but um, probably in the future. I will be doing kind of new tech exclusives that will not be showing up on YouTube, mainly because YouTube is kind of censorious compared to Odyssey, Rumble, and some other places. I'm looking at starting to load videos. But yeah, if you're still here, if you still made it to this point, do me a favor and pay the fee of 1 like, please. And aside from that, I have nothing left to say. I am out.